ACT-1, Before the Darkness. The story begins long before the hiding place, long before fear ruled every breath. It begins on the 12th of June, 1929, in Frankfurt, Germany, with the birth of Anneliese Marie Frank, a Jewish girl born into a loving, educated family, the daughter of Otto Frank, a thoughtful and disciplined businessman, and Edith Frank, a devoted mother. And during Anne's early years, her life is ordinary and peaceful, filled with school, laughter, curiosity, and dreams, until the world around her slowly begins to change in ways that feel distant at first, but grow darker with each passing year. Because in 1933, Adolf Hitler rises to power, and anti-Semitism transforms from social prejudice into official government policy. Jewish families lose rights. Businesses are targeted. Fear becomes normalized. And Otto Frank understands what many refuse to accept, that Germany is no longer safe. And with quiet urgency, he makes a painful decision that will define their survival, fleeing with his family to Amsterdam in the Netherlands, hoping to find freedom, stability, and a new beginning. And for several years, that hope feels real. Anne grows into a lively, outspoken, and imaginative child, known for her sharp mind, strong opinions, and love for stories, movies, and writing. While Otto rebuilds his business and the family attempts to reclaim normal life, but history does not pause. And in 1939, World War II erupts across Europe. And in May 1940, Nazi Germany invades the Netherlands, bringing the same terror the Frank family once escaped. And slowly, methodically, the same anti-Jewish laws return. Anne is forced to leave her school. Jewish citizens must wear the yellow star. Public spaces are forbidden. Bicycles are confiscated. Curfews are imposed. Freedom disappears piece by piece. And even as a child, Anne begins to understand that the adult world is ruled by cruelty and injustice. Yet in the middle of fear, she discovers something powerful. A place where her voice cannot be silenced. Because on her 13th birthday, Anne receives a simple red-checkered diary. And at first, it is nothing more than a friend. A safe place to write about classmates, crushes, arguments, and everyday frustrations. But as the war tightens its grip and danger closes in, those innocent pages begin to transform into something much greater. A witness, a confession, a quiet rebellion against a world that is trying to erase her existence. And without knowing it, Anne Frank begins writing words that will one day outlive the war itself. The transition into hiding is not sudden chaos, but a calculated disappearance, a quiet erasure of existence. And on that July morning in 1942, the Frank family leaves their apartment as if going on a normal walk, wearing multiple layers of clothing to avoid carrying suitcases, blending into a city that no longer sees them as citizens but as targets. And behind them, doors close not just physically but symbolically, because from this moment forward, their lives must leave no trace, and the destination is a concealed space inside Otto Frank's business building on Prinsengracht 263, a hidden section later known as the Secret Annex, a place designed not for living but for waiting. And as Anne climbs the narrow stairs, she enters a world defined by silence, restriction, and constant vigilance, where windows are covered, footsteps must be controlled, voices lowered, and every sound becomes a potential threat. And this adjustment is especially brutal for a girl whose nature is expressive and restless, because hiding is not only about physical confinement but psychological compression. Time stretches unnaturally, days lose structure, seasons pass unnoticed, and fear becomes ambient, present, even in moments of calm. Yet within this unnatural environment Life does not stop. It reshapes itself. Routines form, meals are shared, conflicts emerge, emotions intensify. And Anne observes everything with remarkable clarity, writing not just about what happens, but how it feels, how people change under pressure, how adults reveal flaws and contradictions, how fear magnifies small irritations into major conflicts, and how hope survives in fragments, in laughter, in dreams of freedom. And soon the annex is no longer occupied only by the Frank family, but expands to include the Van Pels family and later Fritz Pfeffer, turning the hiding place into a crowded microcosm of humanity, where personalities clash, alliances shift, and privacy disappears entirely. And for Anne, this is both torment and education. Because she is no longer shielded by childhood distance, she is surrounded by adult anxieties, arguments about food, politics, morality, and survival, and she absorbs everything, translating lived experience into reflection, turning daily confinement into narrative. And through her writing, Anne begins to mature rapidly, not just physically, but intellectually, questioning her parents, challenging authority, reflecting on gender roles, identity, and the nature of goodness. And while the outside world descends further into violence, with deportations intensifying and rumors of death camps spreading quietly through whispers and coded language, the annex becomes a fragile island suspended between life and death. And Otto Frank tries to maintain structure and optimism, encouraging education, discipline, and moral strength, while Edith struggles with emotional exhaustion, and Margot internalizes fear silently, and Anne, caught between childhood and adulthood, becomes the emotional lens through which everything is filtered, her diary evolving from casual entries into complex introspection as she confronts isolation, longing, frustration, and a desperate desire to be understood. And despite everything, she continues to believe in humanity, writing famously about her belief that people are truly good at heart, not as denial but as resistance, because to abandon that belief would mean surrendering to the very ideology that seeks to erase her. And outside the annex, trusted helpers risk their lives daily, bringing food, news, and supplies. Ordinary people, making extraordinary moral choices in a world where neutrality has become impossible. And Anne understands this deeply, recognizing courage not in grand gestures but in quiet consistency. And as months pass into years, childhood recedes, adolescence accelerates. Anne becomes more self-aware, more critical, more ambitious, dreaming not just of survival but of significance, of leaving something behind, of being remembered. And this desire transforms her diary into a deliberate project, revising entries, refining language, imagining a future audience, unknowingly crafting a testimony that will one day speak for millions who were silenced. And yet at this stage, in ACT1 of this story, the war is still unfolding. The end is not yet visible. Danger remains constant but abstract, and the annex still exists in a fragile balance between fear and routine, where each day survived feels like a victory. And Anne Frank is still alive, still writing, still believing, unaware that her words are already outgrowing the walls that imprison her.